Hello and welcome to Scream Scene, the horror movie podcast where we watch every horror movie ever made in chronological order, and then we rank them from best to worst. My name's Ben.
And I'm Sarah.
Thank you so much for listening to us today. How are you doing today, Sarah?
I'm doing all right. I had a nice day with my mom. We got a pedicure, hung out, got lunch. Yeah. How are you?
I am okay.
Yeah.
I've been struggling a little bit the last little while. Events in the United States, in Minneapolis, have had me very upset.
Rightly so.
Yeah. And I'm very lucky to have my family and Sarah and my friends who've all been working hard to take care of me and keep my spirits buoyed the last few days.
Yeah, we are not shy about saying fuck ICE and fuck fascism and truth and justice being correct, compassion being correct, community being the salve to oppression. But I do want to say that, like, I am happy that our show brings even just like an hour's reprieve for folks if they are feeling overwhelmed with the world, with their career, with anything. I like that they are able to take a moment to enjoy something, including bad movies, because I think that's important, because that's how you get a break before heading back into the fight.
Yeah, we stand with the people of Minneapolis, and yes. I'm very proud of the community and resistance that I see going on there. So yeah, I'm trying my best.
Yes.
Over here, like materially speaking, everything in my life's pretty good. Other than that, I am an old man with joints that ache, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I have suddenly decided that I don't much care for being 35 and would like to be younger again, please. No, but in all seriousness, I'm doing okay. I just I've got some sads going on.
Yeah, a very natural reaction to the state of the world, of our neighbors to the south, of even just our own province.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very uncertain future out there. At least it feels that way to me. So my recommendation is tell the people you love that you love them and hold them close and treasure every minute you get with them.
Yes.
Anyways.
Be like the noun in the title of the movie.
Don't die?
Yes.
Never die?
Never. Let me rephrase that. Oh no, cut that, because I don't know if that's
I don't know. That's pretty
crass.
funny. I liked it. This week, Sarah, we are watching The Brain That Wouldn't Die from 1962, directed by Joseph Green.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of this movie, Sarah?
I've heard of movies like it.
Okay. Have you... I feel like if I showed you the poster of this movie, you might recognize that. It's one of those movies where I feel like the poster or the stills from this movie, you would see like a lot, maybe as like iconic schlock cinema stuff.
Yeah, so for folks who don't have it in front of them, there's like a lady's head on sort of a table. She's wearing like a swimmer's cap and headphones, but it's all sci-fi, and they are connected to what looks to be a brain with a single eye in a jar. And in some of these, there's also a sort of looking mad scientist in the background. Very interesting.
Yeah. So the iconic image of this like woman's head on a tray, basically. So this film was originally titled The Black Door, and it was shot for $62,000 in 1959.
Okay.
In Tarrytown, New York.
So 3 years ago in terms of when it gets released.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, and if you don't know, Tarrytown is like where Sleepy Hollow is.
But then wouldn't it just be called Sleepy Hollow?
They're like two. So
they're like hamlets?
I don't know the specifics, but it's sort of like they were two different towns that grew into each other, basically.
Google says that they are a village, but
Yeah.
they are right next to each other. So
Yeah, so like there isn't like a space between them anymore, but they're like north of New York City. North of Yonkers, which is north of New York City. So the director of this film, as I mentioned, was Joseph Green. He was born in 1928 in Baltimore, and this was his first feature film, and for a long time, his only feature film. I think the next film he directed was in 1986.
Oh.
Though in the 60s, he did run a small business importing foreign films into the United States. He co-wrote the script for this film with Rex Carlton, who also produced the film. Now, Carlton also produced a movie called The Devil's Hand, which was shot the same year as this in LA, but didn't come out till 1961. That's the movie where Commissioner Gordon leads the cult of Gamba out of the like doll store.
Yeah.
We ranked it at number 284 on the list.
Dang. Yeah, I was thinking of that movie because of last week's movie about Night of the Eagle and thinking about movies that have featured cults as like, you know, maybe why they would be open to showing more witchcraft stuff. Yeah.
So The Devil's Hand wouldn't see release until 1961 under Crown International Pictures, and similarly, The Black Door sat on the shelf until 1962, when it was picked up by American International Pictures, who renamed it to The Brain That Couldn't Die. Or perhaps The Head That Couldn't Die. They were a bit inconsistent depending on the print.
You're saying couldn't, but before you were saying wouldn't.
Oh, I do think it's supposed to be wouldn't.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda?
Yes, it's wouldn't die. I do believe that the surviving, I don't know if it's a negative or just like a high quality print, but the sort of surviving print that's used for home video these days says brain that wouldn't die at the start of the movie and head that wouldn't die at the end of the movie.
I mean, that's good, covering all your bases.
The lead actor here as our mad scientist is Jason Evers, a television performer who was born Herbert Everin in 1922 in New York City. And I think he's credited as Herb Evers in the credits of this film. But as Jason Evers, he appeared on a lot of TV shows in the 50s and in the 60s. He's on an episode of Star Trek. He's on an episode of Green Hornet. You know, just kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
But the star of this show is Virginia Leith, a 34-year-old actress from Cleveland, Ohio, who plays the titular head. Her first film was also Stanley Kubrick's Fear and Desire in 1953.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
She's the chick that gets like kidnapped, basically.
Yeah, she's the young girl in that movie, yeah. She appeared in a number of films throughout the 1950s, but she retired from acting after this film. Supposedly because of her marriage in 1960, although the reports are that she did not much care for this movie.
She's like, I'm good.
Yeah. Though in later years, it certainly became the role she was most famous for.
Sure, with a title like this.
Evers passed away in 2005, and Leith passed away in 2019.
Oh, wow.
Upon her death, her body was donated to medical science.
Oh, I love that. Except it is the brain that did die.
Mm-hmm. The monster in this movie, because this movie does have a monster as well.
Oh, she's not the monster?
No. Well, I mean, I guess we'll
the
find
monster was
out.
the mad scientist.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out, right?
Yeah.
But there is a traditional monster.
Okay.
And the monster in this movie is played by Eddie Carmel, a sideshow performer with gigantism and acromegaly, who was known as the Jewish Giant, standing 9 feet tall.
Is that giant with a J?
No.
Okay, it sounded like that's what you were doing when you said the name.
No, I was just
Jewish
saying.
giant.
I mean, that's how you say giant. It's not giant.
Listen, GIF up in here. No, I was just mishearing you, I guess.
Okay. Born Oded HaKarmeli in 1936 in Mandatory Palestine. He was raised in the Bronx by his parents. His father was only 5'6", but his grandfather in Poland was 7'5" and known as the tallest rabbi in the world.
That's cool. Sorry, I love that. Like introducing yourself. Yes, I am the tallest rabbi in the world.
As for Eddie, he was 6 feet tall by age 10 and primarily worked in carnival sideshows. And he passed away in 1972 at age 36.
You said Mandatory Palestine?
Yeah, so that's what. So before the state of Israel was created, Palestine was ruled by British mandate.
Yeah.
And so it's referred to as Mandatory Palestine because it's under the British mandate.
Okay.
And so it's important to phrase it that way because I think if you just say Palestine, people think about Palestine now in terms of the like territories that like Israel has ceded to Palestinian occupation in the latter half of the 20th century. They're not thinking of like the whole country necessarily.
Yeah.
Mandatory Palestine refers to Palestine before the creation of the state of Israel, during its control by the British after it was liberated from the Ottoman Empire.
Side note here, when I was doing a lot of the research about Egyptian cinema for the Cursed Palace, I think was the title. So much of Egyptian film history is tied to talking about Palestine and movies about Palestine.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But none of them were horror movies, so I didn't feel like it was relevant to bring up. But now I am, so
Sure.
Hey.
So when AIP picked up The Black Door for release in 1962, they cut about 11 minutes from the runtime and they changed the title. And when they changed the title, can you guess what happened, Sarah?
Probably something around copyright.
Yes, they neglected to put a copyright notice on the new title card, and so the film instantly fell into the public domain upon release.
Okay.
That's
was probably why it got so famous, though, because it would just get shown constantly on TV.
Yes, you've got it exactly,
Oh,
Sarah.
I'm sorry to steal your thunder.
No worries at all. So AIP released The Brain That Wouldn't Die on May 3rd, 1962, on a double bill with the Bruno Visoda picture Invasion of the Star Creatures. The movie was not well received, and it did not make a lot of money.
Oh, that's okay. It was in the public domain anyway.
Right. But as you guessed, years of public domain sort of home video releases kept it in the public eye, and it became a boomer schlock cult classic because it was on all the time on TV. It got tons of VHS releases from various companies, etc. Its fame was sealed when it became the 13th episode of the 5th season of Mystery Science Theater 3000 and the first episode hosted solely by Mike Nelson after the departure of Joel Hodgson. Catapulted into the Schlock Hall of Fame, its public domain status has seen it adapted into 3 different stage musicals in 2011, 2015, and 2016, and it got a full-length satirical remake in 2020.
Okay.
The Mystery Science Theater 3000 version of the movie has, of course, been released on the DVD sets of that show, but the original film was released in the uncut edition, restored from the original print, by Synopsis Films on DVD, and then later by Shout Factory on Blu-ray. And we're going to have it up on our YouTube playlist.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like a movie that you definitely want to see if you're wanting to watch a lot of schlock movies. Kind of one of those like premier ones you need to see.
Yeah, up there with like Robot Monster and Plan 9.
Yeah. Well, folks, you can find that YouTube playlist on our website, screamscenepodcast.com. And in the meantime, you're going to hear a brief musical interlude. And when we come back, we will discuss The Brain That Wouldn't Die from 1962, directed by Joseph Green.
See you on the other side, everybody.
Welcome back to Scream Scene. We just finished watching The Brain That Wouldn't Die from 1962, directed by Joseph Green. Ben?
I think this movie is better than its reputation.
I would agree. Pretty admirable what they were able to show and like impress upon an audience with $10.
Yeah, I think for a low budget indie production by a first time writer director, there's a lot to admire here, from the ambition to the execution. And as someone who has like made very cheap movies and very cheap horror movies and things like that, I guess I can identify a lot with this movie, and I see what they're going for, and
Yeah.
I see what they're trying to do, and I think they find some very like creative solves to a lot of it.
Yeah, and I think even like down to the acting, there's at least one standout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The script is like boundary pushing in a few ways.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not always like, here's the thing. Okay.
Not always in a good way.
Right. Like the movie has good shots, and I think it has good creative solves for the low budget, and it's got good moments in the script, and it's got good moments in the performances, and there's stuff to admire. That doesn't mean it's always good.
Yeah.
Right. There's some stuff in here that's bad, some stuff in here that's dumb, some stuff in here that betrays the low budget, but I think it's an admirable effort.
Yeah. So I'll tell the folks at home what the movie is about. We are basically following a Dr. Bill Courtner, who is a surgeon. And when the film opens, he is operating on a patient alongside his father, who is also a surgeon. His father is kind of leading the surgery here, and he loses the patient. So Bill steps in with one of his experimental techniques, which involves stimulating the brain through electric current, and then doing a manual massage of the heart, and it saves the patient. He comes back to life. This prompted me to go like, how recent of an invention is the defibrillator? It's fairly established by this point. Like it's been used all through the 50s. But even like the earliest experiments around using electric current to try to save someone comes in like the 1890s or so.
I think the thing that's supposed to be experimental and weird is the fact that they like cut the scalp open so he can poke around at the brain.
Yeah.
Because his dad is like, oh, if you do that wrong, he might be paralyzed for the rest of his life. We do get to see the brain.
Yes. Or at least a facsimile.
Yeah.
Yeah, his dad is basically like, you saved the patient, but you and your experiments are going too far. It's a pretty run-of-the-mill.
Mm-hmm.
We meet Bill's girlfriend, Jan, who is very upfront about being really into Bill, even though his dad is right there.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, they are going to head out for like a date or something when they get a frantic call from Bill's assistant, Kurt, who is back at Bill's experimental lab. Bill is like, okay, I gotta go over there right now. You're coming with, I guess. And they're driving erratically and end up being into a car accident.
All by themselves. There's no other cars involved.
Oh, yeah. No, they just take a turn too fast. Jan gets burned up and decapitated. So Bill grabs the head, makes it to his lab, and revives her head in like a tray with some serum that's like flowing through. We learned that this serum has something to do with lymph nodes. My notes here say something lymph nodes because they are not specific, but basically the serum does something to the lymph nodes to make it so that you will stay alive for a bit, and also you won't reject new tissue that is foreign to you.
Yeah, because Bill's experiments are all around transplants and trying to like keep people alive forever by always transplanting like new parts onto their bodies. We've seen a lot of mad scientists doing similar stuff, I feel like, in recent years in these movies.
But also Frankenstein.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it definitely feels like a lot of movies going this way. And yeah, so the idea here is that the serum can only keep the head alive on its own for so long.
Yes. Jan has some words, namely pleading to please let her die. Why did you save me? So as Ben said, they only have, I think he says like 48 to 50 hours before the head will just die. So Bill goes, okay, well, off to find a body. But wait, why did Kurt call in the first place? Well, there's a mysterious creature behind a locked door who was like trying to escape. And I suspect this is the door that is in reference to that first title, The Black Door.
Even though the door is not black, it is definitely just unpainted wood. So I mean, good on AIP for changing the title. It's a good title change. I do take issue a little bit because it really should be the brain that couldn't die, not wouldn't die.
She wants to die.
Yes.
She just literally can't.
Yeah.
It's not in her hands. So we kind of have two concurrent stories at this point. While Jan's head recovers and grows ever more resentful at being kept alive, the serum has had a side effect of having her develop telepathic powers that she uses to communicate with the creature, and they conspire for revenge. Meanwhile, Bill is in search of a body, and instead of doing a rational thing like go to the morgue or to the hospital where people have freshly died, he decides to go to strip clubs, visit old flames, watch a swimsuit beauty competition, and eventually head to a photography modeling class to find a body to put Jan's head on.
So this whole subplot, which takes up like a majority of the movie, like Sarah just basically summed up the entire second act in like a sentence. I think this is a really wild subplot for a couple reasons. One, this is where we really start to get the sense that Bill is a shitty person.
Yeah.
Because up till now, it's just been the standard like mad scientist, like, oh, you go too far kind of stuff, which I think for me, at least at this point, is not enough to render someone unsympathetic anymore. And he seems to like really love his girlfriend, fiance, and wants to save her, right? Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, the fact that not only does he not go for dead bodies, but that he seems to be window shopping for like the hottest body he can get.
Yeah.
And he goes to these places that Sarah describes, and he really like, he turns up the Riz, I guess you could say. Like he's really like schmoozing with all of these women and trying to attract them back to the house. And the only thing that like stops him time and time again is just that witnesses keep seeing that he's talking to this person. And he at least is smarter than a lot of the mad scientists we've seen lately in knowing that like, I cannot be the last person seen talking to this woman before she disappears. So the final person he does end up with is, yes, a sexy model, but also kind of a recluse.
Yes. Now, Jan does try to get Kurt, the assistant, in on this revenge plot because he has also been experimented on with his arm. We get a little bit of his backstory. Basically, there was an accident. They had to amputate his arm, but he was a surgeon, and he can't be a surgeon with only one arm. So they keep trying to put new arms onto his shoulder because the serum that Bill has created is fairly recent. They haven't been able to use the serum with Kurt. And the limbs that get put onto Kurt just end up like withering and dying because the lymph nodes are rejecting them. So we get in Kurt kind of an example of what happens without the serum. But he's like, as soon as we get Jan a new body, I can get the serum and have an actual arm. So he is firmly on Bill's side. So Jan gets the creature to attack Kurt through kind of like the feeding door. And he rips off Kurt's other arm and he dies from blood loss. So Bill arrives with the model like 5 minutes after he dies. It's very silly. As Ben said, she's a model. Her name's Doris. Turns out that they used to date back in like college, but she dropped out or something. She has since been in an accident, so she has a horrific scar on her cheek, which is why she became a recluse. But Bill doesn't care because that's not the part he needs. When she's over, he drugs her and preps her for surgery. Because Jan is against the surgery and is pretty vocal about it, he tapes her mouth shut. The creature gets riled up because of the telepathic powers and ends up attacking Bill, breaking through the door. And this is when we get to finally see the creature. He has kind of a mutated face, which was established that he's mutated a bit. He looks very similar in terms of like face structure to that guy from the Goonies.
Yeah. He's got kind of like a cone head thing going on. He's got the one like wildly out of place eye.
Yeah. He has lumps and odd proportions. Except you can tell that this is all a prosthetic. The creature and Bill fight, and he ends up biting Bill's neck and ripping out his lymph nodes. Wild moment. So Bill is on the ground, like freaking out, bleeding out. And the creature grabs the model and leaves because their fight has ignited a fire in the lab. So Bill is, bleeding out. He's like, oh God, the fire. And Jan, who has managed to remove the tape from her mouth, just laughs at Bill dying and at her finally being allowed to die. And that's the end. We don't see what happens to the creature. We don't see what happens to Doris. Who cares? Jan gets to die.
Yeah, we just assume that the creature, I guess, takes Doris to safety and together they have a happy ending. I don't know.
Yeah. Del Toro's creature from the Black Door. Yeah. First note that I have is, damn, Joseph, you're really trying here.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
doing great.
Absolutely. I think there are some things here that are done better than a standard B movie. Kind of for the Citizen Kane reason of they don't know the things they shouldn't try. So like one example that really stands out in my mind is the car accident.
Yes.
So the way that they shoot this car accident, they don't have rear projection. So they're actually shooting the car driving, or there's a cam op in the car with the people as it's driving. Sometimes they're hanging the camera out the side of the car like it's Grand Prix, like the camera is looking at the wheel as the car is like driving around. And then like the way that they shoot the car accident is almost like a POV shot of the car hitting the barrier on this like steep mountain turn, and then kind of some like POV shots of like the sky and things like flying around, and then like Bill rolling down a hill. You never see a wide shot of the smashed car because they don't have the money to do that. But when Bill makes it back to the crash, it's almost a POV shot, almost from the perspective of like Jan's body in the car. You see like her arm kind of up in the frame, and then like a broken window around the arm, and then some fire and some blood and some twisted metal. It's all very like minor small things to give you the impression of the car crash. And then he grabs the head that's been decapitated and runs off. And when he runs off, they're doing like handheld camera shots, like running with him and stuff. It's very cool. It's very neat. And I think that if this was like a standard, like if this was a Roger Corman B movie or like a standard AIP B movie, I think the way you would do the car crash is you would film the car going out of frame, and then you would shake the camera a lot. And we'd hear off screen.
And then a lone tire rolls back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like they're doing some stuff in here that's kind of cool. because they don't know what they aren't supposed to try, right?
Conversely, times when like they're trying something like this and it doesn't work, or rather just gives away the fact that they have no money, is when Bill goes to the strip club. It's basically a silent movie for like the next 5-ish minutes because, you know, we can see that people are talking and like Bill is talking to the performer, but we're not going to get to hear it. And then they go off to a different room and then it's clearly a set and the audio is echoey as fuck.
Yeah. The scene in the strip club, like what they're doing is they're playing like the diegetic music.
Yeah.
Right? That's the sound that we're getting. It's like it's like a scene in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, the movie, except that it isn't artsy like that.
Yeah.
Like in Fire Walk with Me, there's a scene where they go to a club and you can't hear the dialogue over like the sound of the music, but like they're talking for like a long time. Like it's a long scene. And it's kind of wild. And here it's just like, this is what they were able to do. So there's limitations. The the bodilessness effects for the head. Like the head's in like a tray on a table. And it's very obvious that like the way they shot this in close-ups was they just, you cut a hole in the bottom of the table and she sticks her head up through it, right? They try as much as possible, if they have to go to a wide shot, to have it be from behind the head so you don't see the face. There's only really one shot in the movie, maybe two, where you see the head from a distance in front of the face and you see like Kurt walk around the back of the table, the kind of magician style thing of saying like, hey, see, we're doing this for real. But the head is unfortunately very obviously like a mannequin head.
Yeah. But when we are basically with close-ups of Jan as the head, her eye lines are so good.
Oh, yeah.
Like very, like, I hope this makes sense. Her eye lines are very realistic about where she would be looking as if head on the table, like where she's looking towards the creature door, when she's talking to Kurt, when she's like mad at Bill. Mm-hmm. Like it's very effective. And I feel like that's a level of like direction.
Yes.
Yeah, like from the director.
Yeah. I think you're right. Like for every time that this movie's willingness to kind of go for it doesn't pay off, there's a time that it does.
Yeah.
Right? I think the script it has its issues,
yes.
Right? For any movie like this, the script's going to be a little ridiculous. I think its worst moments are actually the first scene or so, which are like the Bill's dad being like, there are some things that God believes man isn't meant to know kind of stuff. Feels really old hat and tired. The rest of the script, even when it's comic booky dialogue, which it really is, the actors are really like trying their best to sell it. And I think they manage a lot of the time. There are some sort of holes in logic occasionally. Like Bill seems to think that the police won't investigate what has happened to Jan because the body is burned beyond recognition. The car is totaled. And without a head, how would they know whose body this is?
Who's gonna know?
As if like a car crash in the middle of nowhere, totaled car, with a headless, burnt to a crisp body inside and no sign of the driver wouldn't create like an immense mystery for the police. Like the police wouldn't look at that and be like, well, that's an unsolvable mystery.
Yeah. Instead of the black Dolly, it's like the blue Corvette.
Yeah. And he has like, the car has a license plate. Like it's his car. Anyways. So like there's lapses in logic.
So I disagree about what you said about the script where it's really just like particularly rough at the beginning. And I think part of that is because like, yes, the beginning is like old hat of like, man was not meant to blah, blah, blah. But my big problem with this script and scripts like it from other B movies is that scenes go on for fucking ever when they've already said their fucking point.
That's very true. I think, we know that AIP cut like 9 minutes out of this movie. And I think
could have cut 20, bud.
Yeah, I know that some of the stuff they cut was like content cuts around like blood and sex stuff, but there are definitely scenes that you could cut stuff out of without losing any of that impact.
And that's when I get fed up with these movies, that's typically the reason why. Because I'm like, I know what you're saying. Fucking move on. Like, I'm like, I get it. I got it.
We made a joke while watching the movie that this movie predicted the rise of Netflix because of how often the characters like reestablish the plot back and forth to each other.
Yeah, just in their case, it's not so much because people are watching while they're on their phones. It's because people are necking.
Yes. But what I like about this script, the part that I admire, is it's shockingly dark and explicit.
Yes.
I think, again, coming from almost a feeling of like these are first-time filmmakers who've never heard of the production code, like they don't know what they're not allowed to say or do. It's got a rather open attitude about themes of sex and violence for a movie of this vintage. There is not as much goofy camp in this movie as you would think going in. Like even the stuff around the monster and Jan's headlessness is like
Played straight,
yeah. And, you know, I said that I thought the cast delivers the comic booky dialogue well. They have like total conviction, I think. But the real star here, I think, is like no matter what Virginia Leith says, she seems to be having a blast doing this and having a lot of fun with the over-the-top dialogue. And I think she's selling this arc that Jan has of like at the start of the movie, she wants to jump Bill's bones so hard. And
literally.
She's like, we need to get married yesterday because
I want to fuck.
Yeah.
And he's like, in a couple weeks, dear.
Yeah. And then once she's ahead, she's like, I want to die. And then her like descent into kind of revenge fueled madness, like she plays it really good and she plays it straight and she plays it with like viciousness. Like she's hissing her dialogue.
And her laugh is so biting.
Mm-hmm. So I think the cast really helps bring the script to life. The stuff that is really surprising when you watch this movie, there's some gore.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of surprising gore. The brain at the start, when the creature rips off Kurt's other arm, they have doused the side of his coat with chocolate syrup. And he is just bleeding everywhere. And you know, now on the one hand, this is an example of where the movie could use a trim, but it is kind of funny. The next 2 minutes are just Kurt staggering around,
leaving a streak of blood on the walls.
Yeah, as he's like leaning up against the walls, he like leaves the lab, goes upstairs, staggers around for a bit, then comes back down and staggers around the lab for a bit more before he falls over dead. But there's so much blood when the creature bites out Bill's neck, like he's got like a little bit of lymph node in his mouth that's bleeding that he like spits out.
Yeah, and then you get a close up of it.
Yeah.
It's a little fucked.
Yeah, they go for it with the gore here. And the other thing they go for it is like adult themes. Like Bill goes to a strip club.
Yes.
And he watches an act and then he goes backstage with like the lead stripper and she wants to have sex with him in her dressing room. And then this other stripper comes in and they get into a cat fight over Bill because the movie is premised on the idea that Bill is
irresistible.
Yes. Like as much as Jan wants him at the start of the movie, every woman wants him in this movie.
And I think also like the movie is very upfront of like, they're talking about prostitution. They're talking about sex work.
Right.
They're not saying those words, but it's very clear with like the amount of innuendos. Like every line is something along those lines.
This movie is very smutty.
Yes.
Like this is a movie that was made by someone who wants to ogle women and would like the audience to come along on that journey with him. Like they go to the bathing suit contest or whatever it is, and we get like all these hot babes. And I kind of like the
honesty.
Yeah. Of basically saying like, yeah, so if you were in a position where you needed to find your girlfriend a new body, wouldn't you go out and try to find the hottest body you can? Like it makes Bill really shallow, and it starts to establish that he's very much not a good person. The way that he's willing to charm these women into coming to places with him so he can potentially murder them. The way that he's very mercenary about like, well, who's got the best body? I got to go after the one with the hottest bod.
And he's also always talking in like innuendos when he's with the girls. And these are innuendos for like, is he talking about sex or is he talking about killing you?
Yeah, exactly. And it becomes very clear that saving Jan is not about saving Jan. It's about Bill's ego in being able to prove his transplant theory.
Yes.
Right. Which is one of the reasons why Jan turns against him and wants her revenge and all this. And I think the part of the movie that I really want to like dive into in terms of the script being real willing to talk about a lot of wild stuff that doesn't get into B horror movies often is when he goes to see Doris. Because the story of Doris is that, yeah, he knew her in college. She had a boyfriend who is implied to have raped her. And in the process of that, she got this bad scar on her face when she was injured. And it's implied that like Bill came and saved her and beat up this other guy. And since then, you know, she's always had the hottest bod, but now she has, you know, in her opinion, in a 1959 way, like a ruined quote unquote face, right? But it's only on like one side of her face. So she makes her money now staying at home, but like inviting art classes and photography classes in to like use her as a model, right? And so she makes money on all these leering men. But she makes it clear that she hates men. She specifically says all men, in fact.
Yeah.
She says she doesn't date men. She hates all men. And when Bill wants to take her off to the lab because he lies to her that he can fix her face, she says, well, I have a girlfriend coming over later. And it's not really played as like, oh, a girlfriend isn't a friend who's a girl. Like, I think it's played as like her romantic partner. Like she's very, I say heavily implied. She is very heavily implied to be a lesbian only because she doesn't straight up say, I date girls, I fuck women. But without those two lines specifically, everything else is telling you that's what's going on.
She also feels very much like she has just stepped out of an Ian Fleming novel.
Yes. Yeah, she's the woman who
she might as well be Pussy Galore.
Right. Especially with the weird scar and everything and the bitterness. And then, like, if you want to talk about a villain in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Bill then charms his way into convincing this woman who doesn't trust men into trusting him in order to take her back to his place. And he's not planning to do anything sexual with her, at least not with this head on.
He lures her back under false pretenses.
And then drugs her drink.
Yes.
And one detail that I like, although I think it could have happened faster, is that after she stumbles around for a little bit, she goes, you drugged my drink, because I think this is a woman who should be able to like know that's what's happened pretty easily. And it's like they gave Doris the most tragic backstory they could for the circumstance of this is someone who is going to be murdered for her body.
Yeah.
You know, and it really points out how terrible Bill is. You know, I've said this, I think, in past episodes for movies with this premise, but like this idea of like, I'm going to save you by killing other people is where these movies, you know, always the math in the sympathy for the mad scientist always breaks down. Because it's like, well, if you have to kill other people to save your person, although at least in this case, he does only need to kill one person to get a body. It's not like Eyes Without a Face or some of the, I think there was a Mexican movie where they have to keep killing people forever. But yeah, she's like this really tragic character. And yeah, Bill totally deserves to die and get burned to death. And Doris deserves to like live and get saved.
The thing is, this movie, if it had been like an A picture, with like a bit more work done on the script, it would be a drama and it would be about consent.
Right.
And I don't know if a studio in 1962, I know this was made in 1959, but even in 1962, I don't think there's a studio that would handle this with the care that it needs. Don't get me wrong, I don't think The Brain That Wouldn't Die necessarily handles it with care, but they are at least putting forward the themes. They aren't mocking the themes. At no point is that like the butt of the joke. Any joke or like thing like that comes in the like dark comedy of like the innuendo of like either sex or sex/murder. I was already feeling this way with the movie about, this is about consent. About specifically Jan's consent and consent of what you do with a body after it's dead. So even down to the very first patient. But then Doris's story just like is like, no, they're underlining it here.
Yeah.
They're making it text.
Yeah.
And it was strangely refreshing to have Doris be able to like accuse and outright state, you drugged my drink. Because so often it's like a fainting spell that's silent or something like that, because then it's like, oh, the poor woman. But now it's like accusatory. And we also get this point of view shot looking at Bill as she's kind of fading in and out of consciousness. And he just looks super evil. Like he just has like a furrowed brow. Like he's like, good. Not quite comedic, but yeah. So this movie is about consent. And so it's very interesting to me that the two writers are men. I think they captured Doris's story really well in a way that didn't feel exploitative. So I think it's very interesting that exists alongside that honest leering. More than just at the beauty pageant. It's a complicated movie, and I think the fact that it's a B movie also contributes to those complications. So I think that this is a movie worth watching. If you have triggers around consent, go in knowing that stuff ahead of time. But otherwise, like, I think this is worth seeing, whether you are someone who is trying to get your foot in the door around filmmaking so you can see some of the weird creative ways of solving challenges, as Ben said, all the way down to how can you talk about some pretty heavy stuff while also still making a relatively entertaining horror.
Yeah. I think it's so refreshing to see a B movie like this that has a theme, like a really clearly identifiable theme, because you hit the nail on the head, right? It's about consent. It's about patient consent. It's about body autonomy, right? Yeah. Like in a huge way. And you're right. It's from the very beginning of the movie onwards, right? Like that patient didn't consent to be brought back to life in that way, and all these other things that happen. And sometimes when we see movies like this, the theme feels accidental.
Yeah.
And I don't know as it is here. I think this movie's about what it's about, especially given that like the first line of the movie is kind of a flash forward, because the movie starts in total darkness, and then you have Jan's voice saying like, I want to die. Why wouldn't you let me die? And then we go into the story, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think it's really about something, which is really rare in these movies, aside from like, oh, the horrors of science or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the movie could definitely use a trim. I agree with you that a lot of the scenes go on too long, and a lot of scenes are just shot in like long, unbroken master shots. So, there's a lot of creative solving for low budget, but there's also, I don't know if what we're seeing here is like, oh, a director who could have gone on to be incredible if he had gotten to do more movies after this.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing is someone who was really trying to shoot their shot as well as they could in a limited environment, right? And like a lot of cheap indie movies, the sound is bad.
The sound is bad. We do have a musical theme that goes throughout, and it gets named in the credits.
The Web.
Which I was like, that's not thematic at all. And the music is like fine. It doesn't feel like it quite fits, but it's not like library tracks that fight against the mood of the movie.
Yeah, there's a couple scenes where I'm like, it doesn't quite seem to fit well, but I agree with you. I will say, if you haven't seen this movie and you're going to go and watch it now, maybe because of this episode, I will warn you that like a lot of the sleazy scenes that we've described are like straight up accompanied by like some like bounce wow wow kind of music, like some not quite that because that's more 70s, but like some sleazy sax music. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Why are you warning about that?
I don't know, because I think it's unintentionally funny. It's one of those things where like it's like jazz music is not funny. It's just appropriate if you're in 1959, but in 2025, like some jazz music over a scene of like a hot babe is like very cliche and funny, right?
I'm really sorry to break it to you, Ben, but we're in 2026 now.
No. Also, for all of the stuff that we've said about the script being surprisingly open about talking about these adult themes, the plot is very predictable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, what? You mean the monster he created turned against him at the end? Like, oh, who could have seen that coming?
Jan.
Right. So as much as there is a lot in the mean-spirited, smutty quality of this movie that I admire, I think something that really holds it back is its ending. I think if it had an ending that was better than a 1940s Frankenstein movie,
oh sure,
this really could have been remembered as more of a classic, but it really is that like House of Frankenstein style ending where the monster in the last 5 minutes of the movie breaks out, smashes up the lab, there's a fire, everybody dies.
Well, not the creature indoors.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's an interesting watch, if just for like the balls of it.
Yeah, I recommend checking it out, especially because it's so accessible. It's just on YouTube. It's an hour 20. So, little long, but watch it in pieces. You're fine. You don't need to worry about like losing the plot. They'll remind you.
Yeah.
So let's move on to ranking.
An hour and 20 is a little long.
That is long for this movie.
It's not even an hour and a half.
Yeah, but like half of it is restating.
Oh yeah, this movie could have been an hour easy.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I have a very big range, Sarah, because I struggled a lot with this movie because of that seesaw of I really admire a lot of the stuff in this movie, but it is also a bad movie. Like it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. How big is your range?
So it's like 60 spots.
Okay, mine's 40. So you go ahead.
Okay. So trying to find a ceiling and floor was really difficult. Where I started looking is I looked for where dementia
I can see that.
Is on the list. Yeah. Just for that same kind of feeling of like outsider art, if you can call it that. Dementia's at number 91. I don't think this is as good as Dementia. So looking below Dementia, there's a lot of good stuff. Abominable Snowman, Curse of the Undead. Number 96 is The Premature Burial, which is kind of like the worst of the Corman Poe movies so far. It was a very like middle of the road kind of movie. And I think on a technical level, it's probably better than The Brain That Wouldn't Die. But The Brain That Wouldn't Die is trying for like some cool new things that The Premature Burial was just kind of
phoning in.
Yeah. So I made that my ceiling, 96.
Okay.
And then looking for my floor, I looked down and 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 down. Where I kind of locked in on was where those 1940s Frankenstein movies are that end with the monster breaks out in 5 minutes and the lab burns down. And we have all of them in one place.
Do we really?
Yeah. House of Dracula is at number 143. House of Frankenstein is at number 144. And Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman is at 145, which at least implies that those movies did get better as they went, even if it's one spot better each time.
I think maybe just like if we compared them to each other, at least there's like, oh, here's something new.
Yeah.
You know?
Right below that is Night Monster.
Oh, yes. The frogs that are controlled by needle drops.
Yes. But there's some good stuff in this area too. The Epstein, Fall of the House of Usher, Phantom of the Convent, Corman's The Undead. And then I found another movie that really reminded me of this one that has to do with murdering women and mad scientists and leering at girls. And that's the horrible Dr. Orloff at 141, the Jess Franco movie. And I felt that was really of a kinship with this. Below Dr. Orloff is The Monster of Piedras Blancas, which is kind of like off-brand Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, with that one, we were particularly impressed with it shooting on location and the way that they worked around that. So I can see it being compared to Brain That Wouldn't Die as well.
Yeah, so I made that my floor.
Okay.
So my range is 96 to 152.
I am so relieved that we have some overlap.
Good.
So when I first started looking, I did not know where to start. So I just went, what is the middle of the list? Which takes us to 159, which is The Valley of the Zombies. Did not have valley, did not have zombies, but here it is. And I was like, that's fine. Let's look up from here. And I went to Monster of Piedras Blancas for the reasons I just said, of like low budget, but working within those limitations to deliver something pretty kind of impressive. I didn't look at Orloff, but I did go up to 142, Attack of the Crab Monsters. So that's another Corman movie. I really liked Attack of the Crab Monsters. I felt that, you know, it's doing some cool stuff. We get some people getting eaten by crabs. It ends on a very dire note of like this, either the island is sinking or there's been like a nuclear attack.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
The world is doomed.
The world is doomed. And I felt like that was just such a good, strong ending for such a wacky movie. So I felt like that was my ceiling. So that's where we overlap. When I started looking down from Valley of the Zombies, I kind of kept going. I was like, listen, I know Orlex Honda is here. I know White Zombie is here. And hell, even The Crawling Eye is down here. But there's also things like Strangler of the Swamp, which was kind of mid. Beast with Five Fingers, which had the cool effect of the disembodied hand, but then has a joke at the end. So these are all kind of like, I don't know, kind of fitting that seesaw element that you identified for different reasons. But what I felt it could not go below are some of the movies we have in kind of the 170s and 180s, because we have The Man with Nine Lives, which, you know, he has 9 lives. He's trying to like kill people before he loses to the next one. And then 182 is The Man Who Could Cheat Death. So similar vein, not necessarily in content and in what The Brain That Wouldn't Die actually is about, but the idea of like, there's a person who can't die or has multiple lives or his brain gets put into another body or some shit. So I was like, okay, you know, I'm going to just put this as my floor. So my range is 142 to 182.
Gotcha.
But let's focus on where we overlap.
I do just want to call out, even though it's not in our ranges, The Thing That Couldn't Die.
Oh, sure.
As opposed to The Brain That Wouldn't Die, is at 131. That's the movie about the severed head of the conquistador that's like mind controlling people.
Yeah, at the ranch.
Yeah.
That movie does a really good job of making it feel, it's almost like a bottle episode, you know, like you're stuck here in this ranch and people's emotions are getting the better of themselves.
So if our overlap is 142 to 152, that's a 10 film overlap. The midpoint is Fall of the House of Usher at 147.
Here's the thing. I really agree with what you're saying about the ending of this film and the Frankensteins that we have here. But I do feel strongly about Attack of the Crab Monsters being better. So what if we just slotted this in so it's above the house movies, above Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, but below crab monsters.
So at the new number 143?
Basically, yeah. I know that puts us above Phantom of the Convent, The Undead, even Dr. Orloff, but this is what I'm thinking.
Okay, I think I'm good with that.
Okay.
So entering the list at the new number 143 is The Brain That Wouldn't Die. And I think that's a pretty good showing for a movie that
costs $10.
Yeah, and ends up on a lot of like worst movie ever lists.
Yeah, I would put Plan 9 below this. I mean, I guess
we
literally did. Yeah, this is not the worst movie ever made. I think like it's admirable for what they're attempting to do. I think it's unfortunate the level that they like have that seesaw element. But yeah, I kind of wish that Joseph Green did a bit more stuff, because you said the only other thing he did was like in the 80s.
Yeah.
So
I think that one of the things about Mystery Science Theater 3000 and like making fun of these old movies and the way that these old movies get this so bad it's good reputation and mocking them and so on really comes from the fact that the average person, their standard of quality for a movie is, you know, Jurassic Park or Star Wars or Iron Man or whatever, right? Like, so the first time they get exposed to something like this, it's like, this is trash. This is crap. This is awful.
yeah.
But if you're familiar with this genre and you're familiar with this time period and you're familiar with low budget filmmaking, there's a lot to find in these that you can admire.
Yeah. I have a love-hate relationship with Mystery Science Theater 3000.
So fair.
Well, folks, if you would like to see this list, you can go to our website, screamscenepodcast.com. There you can find links to the other episodes that we have mentioned, as well as our appeals box. If you would like to contest this or any other ranking, you can drop us a line through our Tumblr. You can email us at screamscenepodcast@gmail.com or talk to us on Blue Sky or over our Patreon.
Scream Scene updates every other Wednesday on SoundCloud and a variety of other podcasting services. You can make sure that you never miss an episode by subscribing to our RSS feed. If you'd like to help the show out and you really enjoy it, you can help us out by telling your friends about the show, sharing the show on social media, or heading on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/screamscene, where you can become a patron of the night for as little as $1 a month. Patrons at the $5 and $10 levels get access to regular bonus content. I think we've got some cool stuff in the pipes, maybe. So if you want to see all the cool stuff we've done in the past and then get the updates on cool stuff coming in the future, head on over to patreon.com/screamscenepodcast.
So, Ben, what are we watching next week?
Well, Sarah, next week we're watching a film. It's a Robert Lippert production. It's written by Robert Bloch, the writer of Psycho.
Oh.
And it's The Cabinet of Caligari.
Caligari?
Yeah, Caligari.
Not Caligari?
Well, sure, Caligari. The Cabinet of Caligari.
Okay. Interesting, okay.
Not Dr. Caligari, just Caligari.
Sure. Who needs to be a doctor these days?
I guess.
You'll see you then, creatures of the night.
Bye.
Bye.